Today I want to talk about the Manden Charter of 1236. Now, the Manden Charter is considered by some as the very first constitution in the world. It was declared in Kurukan Fuga in the 13th century by King Sundiata Keita. He conquered the Ghana Empire and then went on to establish the Malian Empire. And the empire sits in modern day countries such as Senegal and Mali and Mauritania and bits of Guinea-Bissau, Guinea, Burkina Faso, and Niger. Now, King Sundiata ruled in a kingdom style, so in a federal style government, and he had kingdoms under him. So this charter he created as a way of how he would rule the kingdoms and how they would relate with one another. But it is just so interesting and so fascinating because a lot of the values that the charter upholds are of things like peace and dignity and education and in the environment. It also protects the right to dignity, to liberty, and to the equality of citizens. Some even go as far as saying that it is the very first human rights charter in the world, even before the Magna Carta or the Bill of Rights, because it contains human rights provisions. Now, the charter divided the empire into different clans, and there were 16 ruling clans. They were charged with defending and leading the empire. There were 5 clans of marabouts, so they were teachers of the Islamic faith, defenders of the faith. There were 4 clans of castes, and they were the clans that were charged with working and trade, such as smelting and woodwork and tanning. And then there were 4 clans that were the masters of the speech, the griots, and they were responsible for passing down the codes of this charter from generation to generation and preserving and recording the history of the Mali Empire. Now, the griots still exist today. In fact, it is through them that we learn about the Manden Charter, because the Manden Charter was passed down orally from generation to generation. However, in 1998, a group of scholars came together and they translated and they transcribed the charter from the original form in the Mandingo language through the use of 10 griots. And there are some very, very interesting articles, in fact, especially with relations to human rights. One is Article 5, which says that everybody has the right to life and to the preservation of physical integrity. That was 800 years ago when this was written. And that provision is basically found in all the human rights charters today in modern times. Other interesting articles, for example, Article 14, never offend a woman, our mothers. Article 16, women, apart from their everyday occupation, should be associated with our management. So they were there showing their interest and the importance of women in Malian society. There's also Article 20, which says, do not ill-treat the slaves. We are the masters of the slaves, but not of the bag that he carries. Article 41 says, you can kill the enemy, but don't humiliate him. Article 32, there are 5 ways to acquire property: buying, donation, exchange, work, and inheriting. Any other way is questionable. So the charter, the oral charter, I think there are a number of things that give credibility to its veracity. One is that the countries, the modern day countries occupying the area where the Malian Empire once stood, are today heralded as models of good governance in Africa. These are in particular Mali and Senegal, and it's believed that it is because of their set of values that are passed from generation to generation. Again, another one, the codes did not just happen to be passed down through oral tradition. It just didn't happen. There was a system that was put in place that was set up 800 years ago to ensure that the codes survived the test of time, to ensure that people would know of the empire and will know of these codes. They're people for generations to come. Also, if you look at the language of the text, it's rather archaic. In today's vernacular, it reads like gibberish, to be honest, but it was very practical, and it gave reasons for why it should be followed. For example, do not ill-treat the slaves. We are the masters of the slaves, but not of the bag he carries. So basically, I mean, you might own the slave, but he's the one that's attending to your bag and your property and maybe your children. So if if you know what's good for you, please don't ill-treat him, basically. So also in 2009, the charter was adopted by UNESCO on the representative list of the intangible cultural heritage of humanity. As a person of African origin, I am very proud that my ancestors pre-colonization were strong, not just in military might, but across the board in things like trade. We know that the richest man of all time came from the Malian Empire, that's Mansa Musa. Also, Africa was rich in art, the Benin Empire, the Ife Empire, as well as we can see now, in governance and social order. They valued dignity. The Malian Empire valued dignity of the person, of liberty, security, education, the environment, and civility in their dealings with one another. So I hope I've inspired you.